Good morning, as it is morning. It's about 10:15 here in Colorado Springs, and this is Hutch on Hunting podcast with your host, Bruce Hutchin. And folks, this is going to be just a blast we're going to have because I have a patriot. Yes, I have a patriot, Steve Osterholzer, who was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. So, sir, I salute you. And if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see that. And Steve figured out because he was doing some community work up in Denver as a lot of boys that don't have a father. And we know that 27% of young boys in the United States of America, all ethnicities, don't have fathers, don't have a father figure. So he said, what am I going to do about that? Well, what he's doing, he created Of Mountains and Men. And he's going to talk about that today. And he's the author, A Wilderness Fills the Soul. And we're going to talk about that. And then he's also a licensed guide for tri state outfitters. So all that he does, and he's probably 50 some years old. How old are you, Steve?
I'm 56.
So I was pretty close. So he's in his 50s and he's not letting any grass grow under his feet. So it's with a hearty welcome, a hearty handshake, a hearty salute, sir, to welcome you on to Hutch on Hunting.
Well, thank you, Hutch. This is an honor to be here, and ever since we connected here, I've been looking forward to spending time with you, talking all things hunting, talking all things getting youth into the outdoors, talking about God. Just really looking forward to this whole session. So, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. And thing I like about podcasts, one, it lives forever. It can go any place. And then, as we talked in the warm up, um, my YouTube channel, Hutch on Hunting on YouTube, would be coming up with all the podcasts because it is live and we do tape it. And so the video portion will be coming out sometime later this year. But one thing you said in the show that you needed this show to go out as soon as possible because your cutoff is April 10th. Explain what that's all about for me so the listeners could say, hey, wait a minute, I know somebody that should apply.
All right, kind of give you a big picture here. We'll talk a little bit more about what Of Mountains and Men exactly does.
Right.
But basically, our mission statement is guiding teens into Christian manhood. And so, how do we do that? We do that in two ways. First, our adventure trips. We're doing big game hunting here in Colorado. We're doing wilderness canoeing along the Canadian border, and we're doing winter adventure trips and a cabin in New Mexico, in which we're building snow caves to spend the night in them. We're teaching young men to ice fish, to snowmobile, to cross country ski. And so, the big game adventure trip that I want to talk a lot about here is our big game hunting trips. The bottom line is that for this upcoming hunting season, we have acquired 33 big game tags from the state of Colorado. Okay, we've already got those secured. We've got 5 doe pronghorn tags, and we've got a whopping 28 cow elk tags. And so we are currently taking applications for young men to go on those hunts. A little bit about those hunts. So the pronghorn hunt is going to be in October, and the elk hunts are going to be the 4 weekends next January. So our hunts run from noon on Friday to noon on Monday. These are spectacular hunts. I grew up public land hunting. That's what I'm used to. So if I saw 4 elk in a weekend, I was ecstatic, right? Well, due to Tri-State Outfitters, the outfitter that I guide for, they're very generous. They believe in what we're doing. They have given us exclusive access to 80,000 acres of Kiowa Creek Ranch, just north of Colorado Springs. And so we are essentially getting to hunt the same 80,000 acres that their clients are paying many thousands of dollars for. This is a spectacular piece of hunting property. Um, in the December, January timeframe, the elk migration, they just ball up there. And so this is not an exaggeration. This is not a hunting story. The number of elk that we were seeing on this past hunt here in January, just about a month and a half ago or so, we were seeing 800 to 900 elk a day. We had 13 young men. 13 young men had cow elk tags, and 11 of the 13 harvested their first big game animal. I mean, 11 out of 13 altogether with our pronghorn hunts. We were 19 out of 21 young men harvested their first big game animal. And these aren't experienced hunters. Hutch, they're not you. They're not most of the clientele here, who are grown adults and who are experienced hunters. These are 12 to 15-year-old boys, young men who've never even hunted a squirrel. And so they go out, and we were able to get them their first big game animal, get a 600-pound cow elk. So back to the April 10th, our application window is currently open, and it'll stay open till April 10th. So people can go to our website to get all the information and to apply. So our
What's that
website is
website again,
yep.
please?
Our website is www.ofmountainsandmen.org. Of mountainsandmen.org. The and is spelled out. So A-N-D, not the little and symbol, but www.ofmountainsandmen.org. All the information that people need to know is on that website. And the last thing I want to say about that stress is these hunts are completely free. We don't charge for this. We accept donations. We need people to financially invest in these young men. But the bottom line is that these young men, these hunts and these canoe trips and winter adventure trips, these are completely free.
So again, the website?
www.ofmountainsandmen.org.
All right. And folks, this is going to be, let's see, it's March, whatever date it is, 20th. So this will be up next week. So the 20th to 27th. So that's going to give you a window of about 2 or 3 weeks. So if you're hearing my voice, and this is going to be posted on social media, etc., and I am going to blast it out, um, to my outdoor emails, about 12,000 people, and say, hey, if you know somebody in Colorado, do they have to be in Colorado? Can they be from other
Nope.
states?
We got kids coming from Oregon, Florida, Michigan.
All
Doesn't
right,
matter.
that
They have
answers
to be
that.
Columbus.
So we're
Yep.
going to open it up to anybody, any kid. Do they have to have a somebody to come along with them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the way it works is, first of all, who can apply? It's young men who will be 12 to 17 years old at the time of the hunts. Okay, and of course they're going to have to go through a state-run hunter safety program.
Right.
But the way it works on these hunts is the young men hunt in three-man teams. Each young man is going to have a highly experienced guide, and they're also going to have a mentor with them. The role of the mentor is to kind of be their hunting buddy. The mentor's not actually hunting, but they're with that youth. So say it's a family friend, say it's an uncle, say it could be the dad. The dad is the mentor. The mentor's main role is to be part of the discussions that we have during our campfire talks, which I mentioned earlier about how do we guide teens in the Christian manhood? We do that two ways. First are those big game, those adventure trips, right? Because those adventure trips are equipping young man with skills that result in the confidence that is so critical in a young man's progression on the road to manhood. So the second way that we help guide teens in the Christian manhood are our campfire talks. These are biblically based discussions about Christian masculinity, and they're based upon the book Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. And they're designed to help the young man begin to answer 4 questions. What's it mean to be a man? How do I become one? What is this beautiful creature called a woman all about? And fourth, how do I become really alive? And so the mentor, along with the youth, everyone participates in these discussions. And we know the young man, he's not going to be able to answer these questions in full as a result of a 4-day hunt, but we can plant the seeds. We can get the young man thinking about Christian masculinity and how they can get there. And so that's what the role of the mentor is. So if listeners out there, if they have a young man in which they already know who the mentor would be, be it the father, be it an uncle, doesn't really matter. But we do have a lot of single moms who say, hey, Steve, I just don't have anybody in that role. In that case, we provide a background check mentor for them on the hunts.
Fantastic. So if you're hearing my voice, no matter where you are, you can fly into Denver or Colorado Springs, rent a car, or a Mountain and Men will facilitate getting you out there because
Yep.
they're staying in Kiowa, or they're staying in bunkhouses, or they're staying someplace, right?
So the way that works is so our hunts originate out of Peyton, which is about 20 miles northwest of Colorado Springs. And so we've got 80,000 acres broken up on 7 different parcels of land, going from I-25 there at the Greenland Road exit all the way out to Peyton. So if people want to fly in, we pick them, we can get them to and from the airport. What's really neat about base camp is Tri-State Outfitters has given us exclusive use of their gorgeous lodge. Okay, so this isn't me in a backpacker tent for 13,000 feet. We're staying at a beautiful lodge, and so we've got everyone sleeps in a heated area. We provide all the meals. We've got a great room with elk heads and everything else. So it's an absolutely fantastic place to base camp. One other thing I wanted to let people know is the first weekend of April 4th, 5th, and 6th, I believe, is the Mile High Hunting and Fishing Expo. You may have heard of it. That's going to be at the Gaylord Center over by Denver International Airport. And Mountains and Men is going to be there. Okay, we are going to be sharing a booth with a great organization called Colorado School of Trades. They very generously have donated half of their booth to us. So if you're already planning on going to the Hunt and Fishing Expo, come find us. We'll have all of our Mountains and Men stuff up. And what's really cool is we are doing a gun giveaway in an effort to boost our social media efforts. We are giving away a Tika 300 Winchester short mag, stainless barrel, synthetic stock. We are giving that away. So if you're planning on going to the expo, come see us. You may walk away with a new Winchester short mag.
Fantastic. And thanks for your energy. I can tell you're fully engaged in this. And folks, kids are important. They're our future. And I have a bunch of grandkids and I love them dearly. They're doing fantastic. But they've had mom and dad since they've been born. I know other people that aren't that lucky. And so Steve and his crew have stepped up to help young men find out about masculinity. And if you've never heard about John Eldridge, um, Wild at Heart, that's a book I believe every single man, not just boys, every single man should read. And so that's what I get to say about that. Okay, let's get to A Mountain and Men, and let's talk about more of that in depth.
Sure. Yeah. So, a lot of times people ask, they're saying, okay, what kind of impact? How is this making a difference, right? And I think that one of the easiest ways to demonstrate it is that by just telling a little story. Okay, telling a story of a young man we'll call, we'll call him Hutch. Okay, so Hutch came on Hutch came on a deer hunt with us several years ago, and we hunted a state wildlife area up by Craig, Colorado. It was set aside just for mentors with youth, set aside just for youth. Fantastic place to hunt. We were seeing 150 to 200 deer a day. It's just absolutely fantastic. Well, so a couple days before we were scheduled to go on the hunt, Hutch's mom calls me and she says, Hutch, or Steve, I got to just to give you a heads up, Hutch has been running with the gangs. We haven't seen him in a couple days. He may not show up on the hunt. I said, okay, well, I appreciate the heads up. We'll pray on it. Hopefully Hutch will show up. Well, Hutch does show up. Okay. So the first night during our campfire talks, Hutch was the classic teenager smart aleck, right? Everything was a joke. It was basically a protective measure as a teenager. He's like, hey, you're not getting in my heart. You're not getting inside my head. Everything was just a joke. Well, the next morning we went out and we had a crazy good morning. We put 6 deer on the ground in an hour. I had my hunting team spread all out and it was like boom, 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 deer down, deer down, deer down. Well, another young man got a deer and I was with Hutch, and so we went over to the deer, and a couple neat things happened there. Well, first of all, we always teach the young men that we are going to equip them with skills that leave from the hunt. So while they're on these hunts, they're learning how to. They're learning how to shoot a gun. They're learning how to hunt deer. They're learning how to do a lot of things in the wilderness, often for the first time. Well, we explain to the young men that hey, taking a deer's life is serious. That's not just for a child. Okay, this is a man thing to do. So we will help you field the rest of the deer, but we're not doing it for you, right? And it's always the same thing happens, right? We get the deer flipped over, and I got the knife, and I always stress to him saying, okay, cut real shallow, just the tip of the knife. You don't want to puncture that lower intestine, right? The kid always does. The gas shoots up. Kid starts gagging. The other kids are starting to laugh. Then they start gagging. And pretty soon we've got like 3 kids puking, and all of us adults are just chuckling, right? That just always happens. So I get over with Hutch to the deer, and we, as we always do, we kneel over the deer. We all give thanks for it. We get the deer field dressed, and then we get it in the back of the truck. And so going back to camp in the back of the truck, it's just myself, the deer, and Hutch. And I asked him, I said, hey Hutch, what do you think of all this? And he got really serious. He said, I'll tell you 2 things. First, the past 24 hours, biggest adventure of my life. I love this. I didn't know anything about hunting. I want to hunt. This is incredible. I want more of the outdoors. Second thing, yeah, I know I was a bit of a smart aleck last night in the campfire talks, but I'll tell you what, everything that we talked about, I'm going to think about. And I was like, okay, all right, good enough, right? So I called the mom about a month afterward, and I said, hey, this is Steve. I'm just checking in on Hutch, and she's like, what did you do with Hutch? And I'm like, what did we do with Hutch? Did he cut himself with an axe? What happened on that hunt? And she said, you know what? He has stopped running with the gangs, and he's talking about joining a youth group. It's like, bam, that's why we do what we do. Well, we normally don't take kids on 2 consecutive hunts because if a kid fills that second hunt slot, it's denying someone else's spot, right? But the his mom called me and said, look, it would mean so much for him to go on this hunt. On our final campfire talk, we present each young man a knife, and the knife is engraved on one side with the mountains of men and with their name on the other side. And so mom said, he plays with that knife all the time. He thinks about it. Is there any way that he could go? It's like, okay. So Hutch went on the hunt the second year. Totally different young man. He was answering intelligent answers during the campfire talks. He prayed over another young man. And my buddies and I are like, who is this kid? Is this the same young man, right? And I'll tell you, Hutch, he went out, and I was praying like crazy. I'm like, God, you got to give him a deer. You have got to give this young man a deer. And he made a fantastic shot, got his first deer, ran over, started praying over it. And it's like you could see the confidence just blossom in this young man. So that's a good example. That's a little story about why we do what we do and the impact it can have on these young men.
Now, events are great. There's been many events, many years. Promise Keepers is an event. You fill up CU Stadium and it's an event. But then guys leave there. How do you follow up with those men, in this case, the boys, so you have continuity with them
Yeah, that's a great
throughout the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, kind of give you on a timeline, all right? In that First of all, my goal for for these upcoming hunts, right, is I want to link up the young man, the guide, and the mentor well before the hunts, right? So everyone should know who they are by this summer, who they're going to be. And so they meet hopefully on a regular basis if they're local here in state and everything. We do not want to have when they show up for the hunt to be like they're meeting for the first time. Hi, we're going to talk about Christian manhood for the next, for the next 4 days. So that can be done over Zoom calls if they're out of state. Ideally, it's meeting for coffee. The single moms a lot of times want to be part of that, understandably. And that's fine. A lot of our guides take the young man to the range to shoot. And on that note, one of our requirements is the young man has to be a proficient marksman when he shows up at the hunt. You know the deal. I can't take a young man who's never fired a gun before and in 2 hours at the range make him a proficient marksman, right? So we stress to him saying, you owe it to the animal. You have to be able to shoot a 3-inch group at 100 yards prior to showing up at the hunt. So that responsibility for teaching the young man falls primarily on the mentor or the sponsor, whether they wanted to go through a course, whether they got family friends, the young man teach how to hunt. Well, a lot of our guides, they take the young man with them to the range. And that's a great way for them to talk and to get to know each other. So they go on these hunts. Then what? Well, you're right. We don't want it to be like Promise Keepers being a one and done thing, right? We want to, okay, you're 14 now. You've got another 6 years until adulthood. How can we continue to help you with that? And so that's still in development, what it's going to look like, because now we've been doing this for a couple of years. But there's two things that we're beginning to implement. First is our returning youth mentor program. What I want to do is I want to take young men like Vinny. Vinny's a young man who went with us on one of our first hunts, 13 years old, and bring him back on another hunt. Now he's 17, kind of like as an assistant mentor. Because let's face it, who are the young men most likely going to listen to? Somebody old and decrepit like me? Or are they going to listen to a 17-year-old
Talk for
who said,
yourself.
yeah, there we go. He's going to listen to that 17-year-old up there going, listen, 4 years ago, I was sitting on that bench just where you were at. This is what I was struggling with. These are the lessons that I've learned, right? So we're starting to bring back those young men because they've now aged old enough so we can bring them back as like assistant mentors, maybe even assistant guides. Second is, you're right, we want the continuing, okay, we've done the hunt. Meet for coffee once a month. Do check in with the phone call. So the mentors and guides are encouraged to reach out and continue that relationship. I mean, we had one of our guides this past year, his name is Ben. I guide with him, Tri-State Outfitters. During the non-hunting season, Ben works for sport fishing down in Florida, like marlin fishing and everything, right? So the young man and the mentor that he guided on his past hunt, he invited them to come down and go deep ocean fishing kind of thing. And so you're right. We don't want it to be just a one and done. We want it to be more of a long-term process on this road to manhood.
Great. Now, how many kids have you put through the program so far?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. And I don't do well at math. So I'm just going to quickly go through some stuff. So we started off in 2019. Just like you mentioned, the founder of, Fathers in the Field, and when we were talking there about God put this on my heart in 2019 and said, okay, you worked at an inner city high school in Denver. I was an Army junior ROTC instructor. You saw firsthand what is the impact on young men who don't have a father figure in their life, right? You're going to start this ministry and you're going to help guide teens in the Christian manhood. You're going to do it through big game hunting and these campfire talks. So we started in 2019. It was just 2 kids, 2 mentors, and my wife and I. She was the camp cook, right? So we went from 2 kids and 6 people total in camp to this past year. We had a total, I want to say, okay, we did 28 young men. with just about 100 people in camp because we've got the cooks, we've got mentors, we've got all those support people. So we're grown. We have basically doubled in size every single year, the number of youth served. And we're really excited in that because this coming June, we're launching our Boundary Waters Wilderness canoe trips. And we're going to be
Up in
taking 20
Quetico,
young men.
at
Not
Quetico.
Quantico, Boundary Waters, but I'm impressed that you know Quantico. And
I
uh,
went to college in Wisconsin, and I used to fish.
okay.
I've been all through that country anyway.
Well, for those of you listeners who aren't familiar with what in the world are they talking about, Boundary Waters and Quantico. Um, Boundary Waters is a 1.2 million acre wilderness area on the Minnesota Canadian border. It's got over 1,000 lakes in it, in which no motors are allowed. There's no roads. There's no buildings. So picture 1,000 lakes, all pristine. There's no docks, no jet skis, no boats. It's a canoeing paradise. So what we're doing is we're taking 20 young men this year, this coming June. They're going to experience an 8-day adventure. And the first 2 days are spent at base camp. So we're outside Boundary Waters and we're equipping them with skills that they're going to need in Boundary Waters. They're learning how to paddle a canoe, how to portage a canoe, how to navigate with a map and a compass, how to fish, how to clean a fish, sanitation, camping, first aid, fire starting. They're learning all these skills the first 2 days that build confidence. And then we take them into Boundary Waters for the remaining 5, 6 days. And they're putting all that stuff into practice. And it's a fishing paradise. Last year, we did a test group, and we had a young man who had never been fishing before in his life at all, right? Very first fish he caught was an 8 pound, 7 ounce largemouth, which, if you know anything about largemouth fishing, that is a beast of a largemouth, specifically, especially for northern Minnesota. We caught a 41-inch northern pike, 28-inch walleye. So we're really excited about that. One thing I did want to mention: if you're sitting here, if you're listening and going, okay, well, I don't know of any young men who don't have a father in their life, right? Or maybe you're a father going, hey, this sounds awesome. I would like to go on it. Know that we have two target audiences. Our first target audience are young men who don't have that father figure in their life. But our secondary target audience are young men who do have a father, but the dad needs help in either teaching their young man outdoor skills. I have plenty of guys who contact me saying, hey, I want to take my son big game hunting. I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So the dad needs some help in teaching how to hunt, how to fish. Or they just want help with that whole Christian mentorship. How do I talk to my young man? How do I talk to my son or my nephew about Christian masculinity? So if you're listening and you're going, well, we're not, my son has a good father and everything, but you're interested in going, I urge you to go ahead and fill out an application anyway. Because like I said, we got 33 big game tags. I'm taking a lot of young men out there to knock down an elk or a pronghorn. So I encourage everybody to apply.
Now, how many people are going up the Boundary Waters?
We're doing 2 trips, and Boundary Waters is limited on the number of size permits that you can go in there, but we're taking 20 young men. We've got 20 young men that are going to be wilderness canoeing, most of them for the very first time.
And just FYI, folks, I guarantee it that you will see a black bear. So if you've never seen a black bear, you will see a black bear. I'm not going to
Moose,
say,
bald eagles, you got it all.
and it's pristine. There's no cell coverage. If you have a sat phone, you can get information that way, but there's no cell phones. So it's just something that if you have a desire to go into the wilderness during the summertime, yes, there will be mosquitoes, but there's nothing like hearing the loons cry, and it's just an amazing, amazing place. So check out the website and sign up for the trip. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic time. Can't wait.
And it's a bit of a drive. Do you drive or fly?
Well, I spend about 65 nights a year in Boundary Waters. I basically take off May 1st and I come back August 1st.
Yeah.
So I got the trailer with the canoes and I'm driving out there. And so I take all the gear out there. Some of the young men are coming from the Minneapolis area, so those just drive. But we've got young men coming from Florida and lots of other states. And so they'll fly in and we pick them up at the airport, get them back. And again, these trips are 100% free. You know, if any of you have gone on a guided big game hunt on private land, you're paying big money to do so. If you're gonna, my wife and I just last night, I was looking at guided outfitter trips, canoeing trips in Boundary Waters. You know, if you're going to go on a 5-day trip with a commercial outfitter, you're paying $2,000. You know, our trips are totally free because we really believe the young men who need it most. Um, we've got big-hearted people who are willing and wanting to invest. You know, I've had numerous times. I have people come to me and say, "Hey, look, this is exactly what I was looking for. I'm feeling called by God to invest in young men. How can I do that with my hunting skill?" Well, you can volunteer to be a guide for us. If you're out there listening, going, "Hey, that sounds pretty cool. I'm an experienced hunter. I'd like to guide on a big game elk hunt on private land worth 900 elk a day. Hey, I want to be able to. I'm an experienced canoeer. I would love to take young men and show them the magic of the wilderness. On our website is a volunteer form, and we will accept specifically for the big game hunts. We'll accept applications for guides, mentors, cooks up until April 10th as well. So both the application for the youth to go on these hunts and the application for people to mentor, to be part of this, to cook, to guide, they can do that as well. You know, I also have other people who say, "Hey, God has blessed us financially. I want to invest in causes I believe in. I really believe in what of Mountains and Men is doing. Um, we will gladly accept donations. I mean, just the gear costs alone for Boundary Waters, when you're buying 8 canoes and all these tents and sleeping bags and paddles and everything, it's a significant financial outlay. And so people are looking to financially invest in young men, get them on their road to manhood, expose them to the outdoors. You can donate through our website, through our secure website, and it's tax deductible because we are a 501c3.
Great. So let's switch it up to Steve's also an author. Tell us about the book you've written and why you wrote it and what's it about.
Well, the book is called A Wilderness Filled Soul: Big Game Adventures of Family, Challenge, and Inspiration. And you can buy it on Amazon, both in paperback and as an ebook. And it began, I got back, I returned from a year-long deployment in Afghanistan in 2010. I was still in active duty Army, passionate big game hunter. And so I just decided to try my hand at freelance writing for outdoor stories. It's like God's blessed me with some incredible adventures, especially with my children on these big game hunts. And he's also blessed me with a little measure of writing ability. So I tried my hand at just writing stories and submitting them to big game magazines. And so the bottom line is I've been blessed. I've been published in, I think, 15 magazines now, mostly big game magazines. You're looking at Bow Hunter, Bugle, Successful Hunter Magazine, Mule Deer Foundation, Fur Fish Game. And so over the years, since I had about like 15 stories published, it was a no-brainer in saying, last year saying, well, I'm going to go ahead and take these 15, I'm going to take these stories, write a couple new ones, and I'm going to publish a book on a big game hunting short stories. Most of the hunts happen here in Colorado. You're looking at moose, antelope, primarily elk. And I'll be honest right now, when you look at, if you look at the book, I've got pictures in there of the animals. They're not trophy animals by Field and Stream standards, right? I'm not, the book is not filled with 380-inch bulls and 220-inch bucks. right? I hunt all every single one of my hunts has always been on public land, right? And they're all do it yourself hunts on public land. Um, I've never hired a guide. I'm all self taught primarily through all the mistakes that I make. Just like a lot of your listeners out there, the biggest mistakes are your biggest teachers. So most of my hunts look like this. I'll go into a national forest, designated wilderness area, go in 3 hours up the trailhead with a pack on my back, and I'll do a 13-day archery bull elk hunt. Just living out of my pack, water from the creek, mountain house, kind of thing. There's, if you've hunted public land, you know that hunting pressure it's a lot harder than private land hunting. And so I've been blessed. I've been fortunate to harvest a fair number of big game animals. Most of them are not monsters. Some of them are pretty respectable. But the main reason I think I've been able to be successful in getting these stories published is this. It's not the size of the animal, right? I think it's because every story has a theme, and those themes are family, challenge, and inspiration. Those of you who have you've hunted with your kids before, you probably know. People ask me, well, what's been your most favorite hunt? Your most memorable? Was it the 6x6 bull that we named Brutus that I arrowed when my son bugled him into 22 yards? Right? Say, nope, it was my daughter, 12 years old, getting her first doe. Right? And so I hope that these stories, I hope that fellow hunters enjoy reading. Hopefully, well, if it's a well written story. But I also want to inspire people who've never gone big game hunting. I want to inspire them to get out there and try. Get off the couch, put down the video game, put down the remote. For watching the boob tube, get out there to the wilderness, because you may not successfully harvest an animal, but boy, you're going to build memories with your family that you're going to enjoy and laugh at and treasure all your life. So anyway, that book came out last fall. And if you haven't picked up by now, one of the things that I like to do, I feel is my calling, is to teach, right? All the time in the military, I taught, ROTC instructor. When I'm out with these young men, we're teaching them how to hunt, how to fish. We're doing these campfire skills. So hopefully I'm teaching them this is how you become a man, right? Well, I get a lot of questions about, hey, Steve, I want to hunt the backcountry, but I have no idea what I'm doing, right? And it's all the times I got to ask questions, is saying, okay, what do you carry in your emergency kit? How do you navigate in the wilderness? How do you field dress an elk? What do you carry in your first aid kit? So as part of this book, I started my own YouTube channel, and on there I've got a lot of wilderness skills videos, in which they're just 3-minute videos designed to help people who are just wanting to get into hunting the backcountry, to help answer those questions. What should I look for in boots? What should I look for in a backcountry tent? Those kind of things. So if people are interested in that, if watching that, they can go to my website, which is www.steveosterholzer.com. And sorry, I've got to spell it out. I know it's going to take a while, but I know my name's not John Smith. So it's www.steveosterholzer.com. SteveOsterholzer.com. So anyway, people can go there. They can read about the book, get a link to buy the book, and they can also watch these wilderness skills videos that hopefully they learn something about hunting the backcountry.
Thanks so much for that. And I've been doing this hunting and fishing and canoeing, whitewater rafting for a long time, since actually 1966. I'm pretty old.
Yeah,
But
join the club.
the key thing is, folks, is you challenge yourself, you stretch the limits. And I can remember when we were talking about the Boundary Waters, one time I went up the Sault Ste. Marie with my Grumman canoe, and went to the Batchewana River off the railroad, just drops you off. And we went up there for 8 or 10 days just catching trout. Then it rained, we got flooded out. We were up against it, but we figured it out. We caught some trout, had a good trip. But if you don't challenge yourself, get out of your comfort zone and learn new skills, you're going to miss a huge portion of your life.
Yep.
I've been, I killed my first rough grouse with a single shot shotgun when I was 10 years old, and I haven't stopped since. I was having breakfast with my attorney, good friend, attorney. He says, "Bruce, when are you going to stop?" I said, "Doug, never." Because he's saying, "What about hutch and hunting? What about your book you're reading, writing, blah, 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 all that stuff?" And I said, "Not," because my point of view, you do not have the right to stop until you're dead.
Yep.
Craig
Exactly.
Boddington
You're right.
says, "Die first, then quit." That's a
Yep.
song. I don't know if that's from the Rangers stuff or op stuff or Special Forces stuff, but the mentality is you're going to be dead, then you can quit. But you're just going to persevere. You're going to go through, and what a journey. And I literally have been surrounded by wolves, 9 feet from a charging grizzly bear. I put myself in those places and I survived, but I willingly did that to challenge myself. And your relationship with God is exactly the same thing. He wants
Yep.
you to challenge that relationship and ask those hard questions, why you're going through whatever you're going through, and have conversations just like we had today with Steve, because we are molded to be men. We're different than women. We are men, and we have a role in our life to be men. Your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, I was listening to you just talking right there. I'm like, Hutch, you got to come out and do the campfire talks because
Well,
you'd be great
invite
at
me.
it.
Invite
You know,
me.
you're, you're invited. I would love to have you come out there. Boy, wouldn't that be cool to do a live podcast from one of our hunts and we could have one of the youth on there. So you and I could talk about maybe some ideas for the future for that. But you hit the nail on the head, in that when you look at the road to manhood it's always been a struggle, right?
Always.
And
It's never going to
even
change.
more, it never changes, and even more so in this day and age, it's more confusing than ever for a young man to go to question, am I being a man? Is it wrong to be a man? And we won't get into that, but the bottom line is that those four questions: what's it mean to be a man? How do you become one? What's this beautiful creature called a woman all about? How do I become really alive? We have these discussions with the man. And first of all, we mentioned the book Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. Everybody going on these hunts participates in these discussions. I don't care if you're a cook, you're a mentor, you're a guide, you're the young man. Everybody reads these books. And these are not sermons. I'm not giving a lecture. It's like, okay, I was an Apache helicopter pilot. I can blow stuff up. I am not a pastor, right? I am not giving a sermon. But what I can do is I facilitate a discussion to get the young men thinking and talking. So here's a good example. I'll be like, all right, Braden, what's your favorite movie? He'll be like, Gladiator. I'll be like, awesome, dude. Tell us why. That is such an awesome movie. Why does it resonate within you? He's like, well, because Gladiator was fighting to protect his family. He had honor. He was noble, right? He sacrificed himself. And I'll be like, exactly right. That's what God is calling you to be as the God ordained leader of your family. Now let's unpack that. What does that exactly look like? And the amount of discussion in these campfire talks is just amazing. at first, the first night, the young men, they don't say very much. They give like one or two word answers and stuff. But boy, by the second night, they are just talking a lot. And the most powerful part of the whole thing, I think, is that third question, what's this creature called, a beautiful creature called a woman, all about? That's where the mentors, everybody else, the adults in the room, are like giving advice and going, this is what I wish I had known back when I was your age, right? And so these campfire talks, they're just amazing when you see the young men just understand exactly what you're talking about. God made women and men equal, but different, right? What are they being called to be as a man? And we have all kinds of cool movie clips. We've got Braveheart in there. We've got, Lord of the Rings. We got all these kind of movie clips in there. But I think the young men, they come away with a sense. Well, I know they do, because we do surveys at the end. We ask them anonymous surveys. What did you get out of it? Blah 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 blah. Overwhelming theme is, I never really thought before about what it means to be a man, right? And don't underestimate the impact this has on the adult mentors as well. One of the comments was from a mentor, because the mentor does a survey as well. One of the mentors said, I came out here with hoping my son would have an encounter with God. I never expected God to punch me in the gut out here and say, you need to change. And I've had mentors contact me. I had 3 different mentors contact me individually after a hunt. They all basically said the same thing, saying, look, Steve, I consider myself a Christian. I go to church, but my relationship with the Lord has been kind of cold. Just being around you guys who are on fire for God and serving youth, I want to be like that. Do you have a podcast that you can recommend? Do you have a book that you can recommend? Will you meet with me over beers? And so it's really cool going, wow, we started this whole program to help the young men. I never saw it coming, but we're helping the mentors as well. So, the campfire talks, the final night, we've got a worship leader that from my church. He comes in and leads us in some songs. I mentioned we present a knife. We do a final campfire. Present each young man with the knife, because we, say, hey, whether you feel like you are it or not right now, you are all warriors, right? The knife is a tool for the warrior. So as to remind you of this weekend, and to remind you of the fact that you are a warrior, here's a knife that we present. So it's really it's an incredible experience, for everybody, from the young men who get to experience so much, to the mentors, to the cooks, to the guides. It's really just an amazing experience for everybody involved.
And we're going to wrap the show up, because you're going to put a plug in, the shameless plug for Tri-State, the outfitter.
Okay, well, I'll do.
And let's
All right,
wrap.
so
Then we need to wrap it up.
all right, so Tri-State Outfitters. Okay, when you're watching on the video, you can see I'm holding up my coffee mug with my sticker on there, Tri-State Outfitters. So Tri-State Outfitters, they are run by Bridger and Janelle Petrini. Incredible people. A little bit about Tri-State. So Tri-State has about 800,000 acres of privately, exclusively leased land between New Mexico and Colorado. About 80,000 acres here in Colorado, 750,000 acres in Raton, New Mexico. Fantastic people, fantastic caliber of animals, just incredible, incredible animals. So, if you're looking, you're saying, hey, I want to go on a big game hunt. The caliber of the animals that we have, from the meals to the lodging, most of all, the people. I can't say enough great things about Bridger and Janelle Petrini. They're just fantastic. So I feel very blessed that I get to guide for them. And again, they just came to us and saying, we believe in what you're doing with the Mountains and Men. We'd like to donate tags. We'd like to donate being able to exclusive use of this hunting playground. They're just absolutely fantastic. So if you're looking for a great hunt, you can find them on the web, because they are just absolutely amazing. And again, the hunting experience that you'll have, it's second to none.
And their website, how to get a hold of them?
I would just Google. I think it's Tri-State Outfitters USA. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you just Google Tri-State Outfitters, They got all the information on the website, including how to reach out and contact and talk about dates and everything else.
So, Steve, end us in prayer.
Oh wow! All right, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you. We thank you, all the listeners who are out there listening. We just thank you for the incredible blessings that you provide us each and every day. You know, with this show's focus on hunting, we thank you for this magnificent hunting playground. We thank you for the mountains. We thank you for the rivers. We thank you for the lakes. We thank you for our comrades that go with us on this hunt to experience your creation, whether that's our children, our wives, our hunting buddies. We just thank you for all of the magnificent creation that you provide us. We thank you for the animals that you provide that feed our families. And we thank you for creating the wilderness to help us become better people, to, as Hutch said so eloquently, to challenge ourselves, to find out that we're stronger than we really think we are, that are more resilient, that we do have what it takes. We just thank you for so many blessings that hunting provides each of us. And I just ask for your blessing over of Mountains and Men. And thank you for Hutch. Thank you for the good work that he does in spreading your good news and helping so many people experience the incredible adventure of big game hunting. In your name, amen.
Amen.